What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolve video. Alright soldiers, so in this video we're going to be talking about the Runecraft reveals for set 17, and I'm actually very excited. So all those Runecrafters out here, we're about to be cooking with Machina Rune, I already know, just because I've been doing my research on it. So let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, and her fine beauty, we have Isabel, Interpret Mage. So she is a 3-cost 3/3. You can evolve her for 1. When she comes to play Fanfare, you can discard a card and you can choose 1. You can either 1 select enemy fall on the field and then deal 3 damage, or you can 2 draw a card. Alright, so of course this is already screaming mages, just because mages is going to want to discard any card, that being a mage card that you might not be using, or you could be discarding a spell card so you can get spell chain, you know, things like that. Or if you're playing aggressive, or matching anybody's freak, you'll be able to deal 3 damage to any follower, and then you're still able to evolve this follower. Alright, and then we have the Evo, so we have Isabel, Interpret Mage, Evolve, so she turns into a 4/4, but on Evolve you can put a Quadra Magic token into your EX area. Alright, so for a total of 4 play points, we're able to get a spell token into our EX area, and then we get a 4/4 onto the field that we can also trade into another body if we need to. Alright, but let us look at Quadra Magic. So it's a 2-cost spell token. So when playing this, spell chain 5, this costs 1 less to play. You can select up to 2 enemy followers on the field and deal 2 damage to them, and then you can put an Elements of Creation token into your EX area. Alright, so I'm really liking the removal here, and then on top of that, of course, if you're going to have spell chain 5, so if we are playing the Runecraft game and having 5 spells in our cemetery, we're able to turn this into one that does 2 damage to 2 things. Very good removal. And then we get this nice Elements of Creation token, which will probably go into bigger things. Alright, so looking at the Element of Creation, so we have a 5-cost token, so it's a spell chain 10, deals 7 damage to each enemy leader, and then you can give your leader +7 defense. Alright, so I do like the art of this card, and I do really enjoy its ability of burning 7 and also healing for 7, because that is a lot of health to get back. However, I don't enjoy that this card does not remove anything off the board, or at least, you know, deal. If it did 7 to the board, I don't think that would have been insane to ask, at least for 5 play points. But hey, that's just beyond me. If any of you disagree, please let me know in the comments below. But with what some other decks are doing right now, I believe for 5 play points, that's not too crazy to ask. Alrighty, next up we have Eleanor Glorious Flower. So she's a 1-cost 1/1. When she comes into play Fanfare, you can banish a Runecraft card in your cemetery, then you can draw a card. You can also activate to engage her, and then you can select enemy fall on the field, and if there are at least 5 cards in your banish zone, you can deal 1 damage to it, and if there are at least 10 cards in your banish zone, you can deal 4 damage instead. I'm not gonna lie, soldiers, I got stuck for a second. I was like, what deck here like banishes so many cards? Like, I was thinking Pale Moon and stuff like that, and then I had to remember like D-Shift banishes all those spells into your cemetery. So if you go for a D-Shift and you are kind of weird on like play points, then I can understand, because just banishing an extra card from your cemetery isn't going to really matter too much. Just to go ahead and draw that extra card, because there are some times where I do go for D-Shift and I don't have that one play point that I can use. So Eleanor is something that you can definitely look into your D-Shift deck if you want to have like maybe a 1 or 2 of slot. Alrighty, next up we have Baphomet, Ultimate Creator. So he's a 5-cost 5/5. So this costs 5 less to play if there's a Machina follower that costs 6 or more on your field. When it comes into play Fanfare, you can bury each Machina follower that costs 6 or more on your field. And if you buried a 6-cost Machina follower, summon an Assault Tentacle token. And if you buried a 7-cost Machina follower, deal 4 damage to each enemy follower in the field. And they give each other Machina follower on your field +2/+2. Alright, so when you go for the big Baphomet play and you summon both the Armored and the Assault Tentacle, of course if you do evolve, you can go ahead and play this Baphomet for free, bearing either the 6-cost or the 7-cost Baphomet. If any of you do remember from a long time ago, if you're still playing Machina, you can play that 7-cost, and you can also hit the 6-cost if you do hit the nuts, of course, off of the top 4 or top 5, I can't remember off the top of my head. But you're able to go ahead and get both of those Baphomets, and then if you manage to do all of that in the same turn, you can still play that one, choosing either the 7-cost to deal 4 damage to the entire board in case your opponent goes wide, and then you give each other Machina follower that you did play off of that +2/+2. Alrighty, next up we have Tetra Serene Sapphire. So she's a 2-cost 2/2. You can evolve for 1, but when she comes into play Fanfare, you put a Repair Mode token into your EX area. Alright, so nice, we have a 2-cost card that fuels up our game plan by putting Machina cards into our EX area. Alright, so looking at Tetra Evolve, so she turns into a 3/3, but on Evolve, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal up to 1 Machina card and up to 1 Delta Cannon from among them and add them to your hand. Put the rest of the bomb in your deck in any order. And then on Super Evolve, for the rest of this turn, when you play a Machina card, you can deal 1 damage to each enemy leader and each enemy follower on the field. Alright, so playing into tempo, of course, right, you can get the Delta Cannon off of the top 4 if you also see that on top of the fact that you can get any Machina card from the top 4. So adding 2 cards from this is very good, and the fact that you're keeping hand size is amazing as well. Alright, and then getting into the super evolve ability. So of course, if you're going to evolve, you're going to probably be going for smaller plays. So whenever you do play a Machina card, you're able to do 1 damage to the enemy leader, and that's going to be good too, because if you're going to be spamming the board out, that'll be pretty cool if you're able to do that with Assault Tentacle tokens, and then you're swinging them in for damage too. Alrighty, next up we have Mega Enforcer, so it's a 3-cost 3/3, and at the start of your end phase you can select enemy fall in the field, and if there are at least 3 Machina cards in your EX area, deal it 3 damage and then draw a card. This also has last words, so put an Assembly Droid token into your EX area. Alright, so this is another solid target for Sorcery and Solidarity, so just in case your opponent only does play 1 card on their field, you're able to go ahead and keep tempo. You can go ahead and play a card like this, have those 3 Machina cards in your EX area, being able to deal 3 damage, drawing yourself a card, and then if your opponent does deal with it, as long as it doesn't go to your deck or goes into the banish zone, you're able to go ahead and put an Assembly Droid in your EX area. Alright, so next up we have Nefarious Invasion, so it's a 3-cost spell, so this can be played if there are 2 or less Machina cards in your EX area. So when playing this, you may pay an additional cost of 2 play points. You can search your deck for a follower with Belphegor in his name, reveal it and add it to your hand, and then shuffle, and then summon an Armor Tentacle token, and if you paid the additional cost, you can summon an Assault Tentacle token. Alright, so for 3, you can go ahead and search your deck for a Belphegor and then summon an Armor Tentacle token so you can have some defense, and if you play this card for 5, you can summon the Assault Tentacle token so you can swing in for storm damage as well. Alrighty, next we have Marie Flowery Magician, so this is a 4-cost 2/2. You can evolve for 1, but when it comes to play Fanfare, you bury the top 2 cards of your deck. If you buried a non-Runecraft card, you can draw a card. Alright, so it looks like this is a Runecraft card looking for neutral cards that you're going to be burying. I don't know exactly what that's going to be doing, but if you're going to be playing some sort of spell chain variant and you want to run a 4-cost card that buries the top 2 cards to help you potentially mill any cards, then by all means run this card. Or if you know what this card might actually go into a better deck, please let me know in the comments below. Alright, and then we have the Flowering Magician Evolve, so you turn it to a 3/3, but then on Evolve you select the enemy follower on the field and deal it 5 damage. Yeah, this most definitely has to be some sort of fodder, because this is not like 5 play points in terms of stats. Like, there's lots of other cards doing crazier things, so I think this has to be like one of the maybe lesser cards in the set. Alrighty, but next we have Enforcer, so it's a 1-cost 1/1, so it has Rush, but when it comes to play Fanfare, if there are at least 3 Machina cards in your EX area, you can give this +3 attack and Assail, and then the last word, so when this does die, you put an Assembly Droid token into your EX area. Alright, so this is a really good 1/1, especially on the fact that it has Assail, so you can swing this into those reserved followers, and then it replaces itself in terms of value by getting an Assembly Droid in the EX area. And already next we have Fruits of Wisdom, so it's a 1-cost spell, so you look at the top card of your deck. If it's a Machina card, you may put it into your EX area, and then you put an Assembly Droid token into your EX area. Alright, so that's huge. So being able to go ahead and put a Machina card into your EX area and then put an Assembly Droid into your EX area, you're going to have the requirement of 2 Machina cards in your EX area. Alrighty, but next up we have Awakened Robot, so it's a 2-cost 2/2. You can evolve it for 1, and then it also has last word, so when it does die, you put a Repair Mode token into your EX area. Alright, so this is probably going to be the 2-cost follower that it does evolve and probably does like either 2 damage to something, and then you run it into another follower. Alright, so getting into the Awakened Robot Evolve, so it turns into a 3/3, but on Evolve you select enemy fall on the field and deal 2 damage, and then last words, you put a Repair Mode token into your EX area. Yeah, so just like we said, just having a 2-cost follower that's able to deal 2 damage into the set, and then, you know, being able to run into another follower. Alrighty, and next we have Covenant Mage, so it's a 4-cost 1/3, so this card costs X less to play. X equals the number of cards in your banish zone. Then when this card comes into play, you draw a card and then banish a card from your hand. Alright, so this card looks like it's going to be pairing up with Eleanor, so of course when you do go for D-Shift, if you're going for a bit of a less of like a run your play where you're just playing a whole bunch of followers and then, you know, just kind of like shuffling through your deck to just like find something to play next turn that's kind of like bigger, because you are taking that second turn. So if you have all these extra play points, or I guess since you're going to have like 10 cards in your banish zone, this card probably is just free, so you can go ahead and draw a card and just keep valuing as much as you can. Starting next we have Jet Broom Witch, which is a 1-cost 1/3. It has Ward. When it comes to play Fanfare, you put a Repair Mode token into your EX area. Alright, so this card is absolutely wonderful, and definitely in terms of stats. A 1-cost 1/3, it's definitely going to be hard for your opponent to remove this on turn 1. So being able to have this as a ward as well is amazing too. Alrighty, next we have Panacea Alchemist. So she's a 5-cost 5/5. When she comes to play Fainfair, you can choose one. You can either one, give your leader +5 defense, or you can spend 2 extra play points to deal 5 damage to each enemy follower on the field. Alright, so we have a 7-cost deal 5 to the board, and then you also get a 5/5 in terms of stats. That's also very good. But if you're going to be playing a bit defensive and you're playing some sort of weird alchemist build, then you can also heal 5. Alrighty, and lastly we have Mysterian Wisdom. So it's a 1-cost spell. So when playing this, you reveal an academic card from your hand and put it to the bottom of your deck as an additional cost, and this card cannot be played without paying the additional cost. You can draw 2 cards. Alright, so this card kind of does solve a bit of the problem that I have been having in my build for academics. So of course the 3-cost Greya is a card that I do enjoy having in my hand, not really, because I want to summon it with a 6-cost Anne. So throwing it to the bottom of our deck is going to be very amazing, just because that card doesn't really have any value if we don't have 10 cards in our cemetery that are academics. And, you know, just paying 3 for that doesn't really seem the value in terms of doing it for 4 play points to get the Greya's Ember and everything. But I think this does solve one of the bigger problems for my version of the build, just being able to get rid of that Greya so I can just draw more cards, so I don't have to pitch the Greya and then draw cards in terms of value of the academic things. Alrighty, and getting into the use, so we have 2 of them for runes. So we have Eleanor Glorious Flower, and then we have the Tetra Serene Sapphire. So if any of you are going to be interested in picking up these cards, kind of interested in picking up the Tetra just because that's everybody up there, but I think I'm really interested in the Dragoncraft one. So do be on the lookout for the Dragoncraft one in the next video. And alrighty soldiers, that is all of the cards for set 17, Convergent Destinies for Runecraft. Very excited for this. This is the split that I will be picking up this upcoming weekend, so hopefully it'll be in by the time the weekend gets here so we can all play in webcam locals if you are going to be there. But alright soldiers, make sure you are safe in whatever you do tonight and safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Yeah. TRINN, just to get you away. What I got to do, what I got to do, just to get you away. What I got to do.